Hi everybody, it's Allison. I'm here at Thomas Sewing Center in Lexington, and today I wanted to show you how easy it is to do puff stitches on the Baby Lock Capella. We have been stitching hats like crazy since we got this machine in, and it's a lot of fun. And the reason that it's so easy is because this has the puff stitches built into it, so I don't have to go out and buy a font. I can work with what's already in the machine, and I've just about got it set up. So I'm going to show you how we get the puff stitches on there, how, what we use to put it together. And then we're going to build the design here on the machine. So the Capella is Baby Lock's new single needle free arm embroidery machine. So this replaced the Alliance. And what they did was add the puff stitches to the machine, as well as increase the embroidery field. So we have a much bigger space that we can work with. And it gives us a laser point with a crosshair, so we can make sure that everything's lined up the way we want. So today, what I'm going to show you is how we're going to create the design with the puff stitches, hooping the hat, and what all we use in order to get these puff stitches to stitch on the hat. So I'm going to take you over here and show you on the machine exactly what I'm going to do. So on the Capella, this T01 font is our puffy stitches. So we're going to be stitching a hat for Vicky, and what her grandkids call her is Hamma. So we're going to put Hamma on the front of a hat with these puffy stitches. So we're going to do one letter at a time because I want to be able to space them. Actually, I'm going to put these in a small, and I'm going to see if I can space these out the way that I want to. So I'm going to set that word there, and I'm going to bring these closer together so that they don't take up as much space there on the front of the hat. There we go. And then I'm going to bring it down to the very bottom of the embroidery field so that it's as close to the brim as I can get it. Oh, let's come back down. There we go. And it's that easy. So I'm ready to hoop my hat and get everything onto the machine. I've already got my cap driver on here, and we're going to be using the embroidery cap frame. This is different than the advanced cap frame. We're going to be stitching on this pretty pink structured hat. And what we're going to be using, so I've got this structured hat here that we're going to be stitching on, and what else I'm using, I'm going to be using the Baby Lock Tearaway Firm underneath. And then on top of the hat, we're going to add a layer of puffy foam, silky puffy foam. We carry all these here in the store. And we're going to put on a hydro melt topping. So I'm going to get the hat hooped, and then we're going to add these layers before we start stitching. And I'm going to bring you with me. So this hat hoop is a little bit different than some of the other ones that Baby Lock makes. This one's a little bit newer. It's only been out for a couple years, but the nice thing about this, it's a lot easier to hoop with than the advanced cap frame or even the wide cap frame. And the benefit to this one is it allows us to stitch closer to the bill of the hat than the other two cap frames do. Of course, with the wide cap frame that works with the 10 needle, you can go wider, you can go ear to ear. But if you have the 6 needle or the single needle, this one is phenomenal because all I do is line this up, and then the sides of this piece tuck down, and I've got a little marker here on the front to keep my hat level so everything's straightened up. And then I lock it, and then I'm not sure if you can hear it clicking, but I'm going to show you what this looks like a little bit closer up. So right here is where I want the center of my hat to be, so I'm going to reline it. And also down here I've got another mark that shows me where I need the center line of my hat to be. So I'm going to set you down and line this up a little bit better. But as I tighten it, it clicks just a bit. And then this part of the hoop gets much closer to the brim, so it's super easy to use. So let me pull this out, and I'm going to line it up a little bit better before I put it on the machine. And there's just a little knob on the inside that locks and unlocks this portion. Lock it back, and there we go. Oh, just a teensy bit to the right. All right, so when we're ready, we just pop it off this piece, and now we're going to take it to the machine. So this is honestly one of our favorites to use because it is so quick and easy to hoop. And with it being structured, it's going to retain its shape really well up here. So all I'm going to do, let me get you a little bit better of a view. So I can slide this on and make sure I'm missing the needles. There we are, and we're hooped. So I've got this threaded up with white thread, so we're going to be putting white thread onto the puffy foam. And I've got a piece of puffy foam here that we've used the bottom of, but I'm going to lay the puffy foam down and just hold it long enough to get it started. So once we're ready to embroider, the machine flips the design around for us to fit on the hat hoop perfectly. And then I'm going to touch the lock button. Oh. And we also want a topper. So the topper is going to help the thread from falling down into the puffy foam, and the stitches are going to stay up on top and give us the look that we want. So I'm going to touch lock, and then we get started. So with this stitch, it actually takes about 15 minutes to stitch this out. And the reason is it slows the machine down to 600 stitches per minute. So that way it's going to be sure to cover the puffy foam. And I'm going to turn you around so that you can see what this looks like up close. So we've got the topper and the puffy foam, and it's working on the H right now. And that's what we're stitching. So I'm going to keep an eye on this, sit here and watch it stitch out, and I'll show you the finished product once it's done. This is one of the reasons why we were super excited about this machine. If anybody's been looking to start a business or to add to your business, this is a really good gateway into that, because this machine is at a very good price point for a free arm machine, so it makes doing hats super easy. The puffy stitches add a lot of value to this because you're not going to have to go out and find it anywhere else and bring it in and then work with it in the machine. It's just already built in there for you. And the hat hoops that you can get also make it super easy. This hat hoop that we're working with now is super quick to put the hat onto the machine. I'll turn you around again so you can see this. This is the finished product. This is one of the hats that we made. I was trying to go with the UK theme, but I think I ended up going more the Broadway cat's direction instead. But those stitches look phenomenal. So, and there's so many things you can do with this, with the colors. One of the other things that they added to the Capella is, in addition to the crosshair with the laser beam, it gives us a positioning assistant. So it's going to help you make sure that your designs are hooped correctly and that they're going to stitch in the correct place. Now the only thing with this is I'm just going to make sure as it goes from letter to letter that the topper doesn't bunch up. We can also add a basting stitch to this. So if you don't want to stand here and babysit it, you could add a basting stitch so that way the topper is going to stay in place and so is the puffy foam. And that is right here on your machine. And we would have done that at the beginning when we started the stitching. And here we go on to the next one. And it's showing me I'm out of bottom thread. All right, folks, I'm going to get the machine back up and running. A nice thing about this is it has, let's see, it has a needle threader built into it. So it's super easy to change your threads. And with this being a single needle, you will be doing that every time you have a needle change, a thread color change. All right, get the bottom thread. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to back this up so that it goes back to the very beginning of that letter A. And then we lock it. And these look so good. Look how good those stitches look. So when we're done, all we'll need to do is peel off the topper. I used a hydromelt topper, so that's a water soluble. And with the water soluble, if you ever have any pieces left on there that you can't quite get out, then we just put a little bit of water in it, rinse it a bit, and then the topper just comes right off. So one of the other things you can do with these hat hoops is you can get multiple frames. So you keep your machine with the driver on it for the hat hoop, and while this is stitching, you could be hooping up your next hat. And if you have multiple hats that you want to make with the same design, then once this is done, you're just ready to take this off and put the new hat on. So, and it's going to show us our stitch count as we go and show you how far along we are in the design. It tells us how many minutes we've got. And then up here, it shows us the type of frame that we're using and the size of the design that we're stitching out. One of the other things that this machine has that the other two free arm machines don't is a bobbin winder on this side of the machine. So if you like to work with freestanding lace or make patches where you need to have the top thread the same color as the bobbin thread, you can wind your own bobbins for this machine and not have to purchase an additional bobbin winder. So folks, I'm going to let this run so that I can show you what the hat looks like when we're finished with it. And all right, so there's the second letter done. Just going to make sure that we've got the topper staying in place. And this topper is really easy to remove too. Like I said, it usually peels off without having to get any more water in it. So the topper is really good if you're working with anything like a terry cloth or anything with a lot of loft. It'll keep your stitches from sinking down into it. So for instance, I know Green Up has a yoga mat in their store, and we've got one here. And there's Vicky. Say hello, Vicky.
Hello.
And so this one right here, we stitched that with the multi-needle. And for that yoga mat, we put the hydromelt topping on it. And actually, when I started stitching that, I didn't have the topper. And you couldn't see the stitches at all, even though the color is a pretty good contrast. So I added the topper to it, and it just lifted the stitches up so that you can see them. Even the really thin parts of that monogram you can still see from a pretty good distance, and that's 100% because of the topper that's used. And like I said, I know Green Up has one of those in their store too. So anything that's really thick or you're afraid your stitches might get lost in the texture, the toppers are going to be perfect. So they make a hydromelt and also a like an iron off, like a heat away or press away. So with that one, instead of running water under it or over it, you would use an iron and use heat to get that to come out of your project. So this machine is the Baby Lock Capella. Hi Luann. It's the Baby Lock Capella, and this is the new single needle free arm machine from Baby Lock. And this machine has the stitches that we're stitching, the puffy stitches, it has those built into it. So we've got this in both stores, Lexington and Green Up. And you can come in and take a look at it, or you can just come in and take a look at our samples because they're super fun. And we might just stitch a hat for you if you want to come in and take a look at it, because we're pretty much in love with this. And the thread that we're using is the glide thread that we carry here. It works really well on these multi-needles. It keeps them clean. And we don't have, you know, a lot of thread breaks. So I'm going to stop this after this letter, and I'm going to peel off the puffy foam. And I'm just going to hold it in place for the, actually I'll let that go ahead and stitch out. So we've got one more letter here. We've got the A. Just hold that down. Hi, Barbara. So normally this machine would stitch about 1,000 stitches per minute on a regular stitch, but since it is on this particular font that needs to allow room for the puffy foam, it slows it down so that way we can make sure to get a complete coverage of everything that it needs to stitch over. And so it slows it down from the 1,000 stitches per minute to 600. So if we had any other type of font on here that looked exactly the same, it would probably be done in just about half of the time. But we can see here again the stitch count. And my little green crosshair shows me where I am in the design as it stitches out. And so this hat that we're stitching out, this one is for Vicky. Her grandkids call her Hamma, so that's why it says Hamma on the front. And she wanted the pink hat with the white letters. Oh, and this is actually another good example of when to use the topper. Anything like a towel with the terry cloth, those stitches normally would kind of be hidden by the terry cloth, but the topper helps it stay above it, and so that you can see all the detail in those small embroidery stitches. Oh, and we're so close. So one of the things I mentioned about this cap frame is that it allows us to get a little bit closer to the brim. If we were on a different cap frame, then the stitches would be about a ½ inch higher than where they're at on this one. But as you can see on the screen, I was able to slide that down to the very bottom of where my embroidery field is. And that's it. We are done. All right, so I'm going to set you all down. I'm going to take this off of the machine.
I believe they are black and white.
All righty.
I want to say they are $1 a piece. Let me go up and check.
All right, the moment of truth. So we've got this stitched out, and what we're going to do is just peel this off. And the topper comes off with the puffy foam.
You can get them individually, and you know what?
How good does this look?
I don't know. This one may be for.
Now, right there in that A, I might have to get some tweezers for those, or some little snips.
But for the.
Yep, just to get those off. And if you have some little scragglies of
I think they're $1. And wait a minute.
the topper on here, then, like I said, you can add a little bit of water if you see some that might be, you know, hard to get or not coming out quite right. But there we go. That's the finished project. Got our little rogue thread. And sometimes what you'll have with the puffy foam is like a couple little scragglies of the pieces. They're coming out. But what we'll do is just take a little bit of heat from either a hairdryer or an iron and just spray that, so that way those will come out and clean it up a little bit. But I'm going to take this out of the cap frame. And I've got the tearaway on the back here. We'll take care of that. And there we go. There's Vicky's hat. Now, if that looks backwards to you all, it does say Hama. It is supposed to be Hama.
Not comma.
And here's Vicki.
Okay, let's see. Let's see. How does Hama look at... Oh, I do not look good in a hat, but that's okay. Wait a minute. Here.
Is it just too small?
No. I got a little head. All right, look at that. Look at that. Hama's in the house.
And how easy was it to make that hat?
Oh, I love it. All right, I'm going to wear it the rest of the day. Okay?
All right, that sounds good.
All right.
Thank you for joining me, everybody, today on this Saturday to take a look at how we do the puffy stitches on the Capella. And we hope to see you all soon. Bye.